the revision guide and taking the notes that you've gotten in the first part of class from the different members of your group and working those into a comprehensive plan to revise the script to its next draft. So let's see what we have today, and a quick recap of what we've done so far. So week 1 was about giving and receiving notes with members of your group. And so we are going to, the goal is to receive 2 sets of feedback in the Script Camp program so that you are able to compare and contrast these notes and see what are the things that come up in both different ones, both different sets of feedback. Those are the things that you should probably pay more attention to. You are also creating a re-outline that reflects the current version of your script. So that is an outline that has a bullet point for every scene. And it is not reflecting, it's not showing the changes that you'd like to make to your script. It's in fact just reflecting the version of it that you currently have. You were also supposed to read these student scripts and give all the feedback that we discussed last week. And then this week will be about, like I mentioned, getting all those notes in one place and sort of figuring out which ones you're going to take and which ones you're not going to. And also creating this revision guide, which is going to be the document that is going to be the thing you refer back to for the rest of this rewrite process. So we have 2 class meetings left after this one, and then you have up until the end of that following week to finish your rewrite entirely by May 21st. So let's look at the overview first. We'll start with check-in, which will be about the notes that you've given and received, and also just the homework, which is always going to be you should be reading pro scripts at least one every single week and be ready to discuss and talk about them. Re-outline we will get into first, and that is going to just be the bird's eye view of your entire story as it stands, and we're going to check to make sure that you didn't have any questions or problems with making this for your script. We will also just talk about the notes that you gave or received, and if you had any problems there or questions on how to do that, we can stop and assess what the biggest problems have been so far and go into creating the notes document, which is going to be the place where we just put all those notes in the same spot. Create the revision guide, which is going to be the copy of your re-outline mashed together with the notes document using the notes that you decide to choose and go with and change your script in accordance with. You're going to mark out where those different places for revision are going to be. And then we'll talk about starting the rewrite, which is ideally going to happen as soon as possible after this class because you have most of what you need. So it just depends on how many days it takes you to get your revision guide up and running. Should be like 3-4 days perhaps, and then you are ready to be off to the races and actually start rewriting the script from page 1. So we'll also have lots of time for questions, of course. So let's post these re-outlines in the assignments channel, and I will take any questions or major problems in doing these re-outlines. Remember, this is the an outline for the version of the script that you have. So let's see what students have posted and see if there's any questions or problems so far. So let's see. Did somebody post a revision guide into the assignments channel? Or sorry, not revision guide, but a re-outline. Is it Lazima? Are you here, Moon Spirit?
Can you hear us okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sitting here talking and...
Oh, yeah, you've been muted. That's okay. Do you have a re-outline to share?
No, I wrote it down and I didn't get back to typing it up completely.
Okay.
But I did notice that, but the notes that Nacho gave me, about like all the actually happening in Act 2, I noticed that from doing the outline. I noticed a lot. It was kind of like, I'm not going to say it was really boring, but it was like nothing really happening until towards the middle. So.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, the middle is, well, that's when it needs to be the most interesting, because Act 2, we say, is the movie. Did you have any questions about making the re-outline or any problems with writing that up?
Yeah, I think I was doing every like slug line, every all the mini slugs and everything like that as my scenes instead of just doing like the one scene opening, one slug line, everything, all the different changes of location as one scene. That was my issue that I was having because I kind of separated all of it.
Oh, okay, yeah. You should. So for the reoutline, I would try to separate them out in terms of pages. So if you're trying to mark out like page 1 to 2 is where this happens, page 2 to 3 is where this happens. Unless you have like a
Okay.
bunch of scenes per page, which would be way too much going on for most movies. I mean, most of your scenes, I assume, are 1 to 2 pages long, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
They are. Okay.
And yeah, they are. Mhm.
Well, then, yeah. So for your reoutline, I mean, you don't have to put in the page numbers on them, but or above each of the different scenes. But that is a nice way to sort of keep track of where you are. You can say like page 1 is this scene, page 2 to 3 is this scene, and so you don't have to write in every single location change because sometimes a scene doesn't have to just be between two sets of slug lines. A scene might take place in multiple locations. It's sort of where like a character has a conflict or there's like a problem that is framed. A character tries to solve that problem and either succeeds or they fail at it, and then we use that to transition to the next moment. That's usually what a scene is going to be. So,
Yeah,
any other questions there, or any does this make sense how to proceed?
it does. It does.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this reoutline is going to be really useful because you're going to need this to make the revision guide. So you'll need to have it's probably going to be one page of just the script that you have in bullet point form. So scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. You don't have to number the scenes, but you might want to put the page numbers above each section just in case. And then after that, you're going to take the notes that you got and you're going to move them over and highlight them and drag them over onto that reoutline so that you know where each of the changes are going to go, and you'll have like a plan to revise the entire thing. Nacho, any were you rewriting something as well, or were you doing the feature program to write from scratch?
I'm still working on revising voices, so it's if it's helpful, I posted my kind of like where my revision guide is right there, but just it's because I just used my scene cards. It's a lot more detailed probably than most people's re-outline be. It's like usually just a couple sentences or something.
So this your script turned out exactly like these scene cards, so you're just using those for your re-outline, you mean?
No, so I'm already at the revision guide stage. So this is like in the scene cards, so I'm adding new stuff in yellow, and I'm putting things I'm going to delete in red.
Oh, I see.
And then, green is what I'm keeping.
Okay. Yep, that's how I mark things up. Oh, I see. So you just have like a pretty detailed revision guide, or you're working on a pretty detailed revision guide. That makes sense. Cool. So yeah, this is more detailed than when most people will be doing this, but that's okay if this is helpful for you, or if this is what you need to do to get back on track. Any questions or problems with this so far? I know you've been on this one for a while.
Just finding time to work on it. It's been been had time, but I think I just kind of used my scene cards from when I was preparing the script, so that's kind of why it's a lot more detailed, I guess. But
okay.
But it feels like it's, even though it's like I'm just putting colors on a document, like it does feel like writing, like I guess.
Yeah, I like that's what the color coding is kind of good for. It's to sort of remind yourself that you're making progress and that you are filling things out, and you're filling up the progress bar in whatever way. So that's why I'm a big fan of doing that. Do we have any recent scripts that you guys have read that you would like to tell us about? Okay, well, you should continue to be reading scripts, one a week, up to 3 of them a week, and pretty much every class where we ask this question. It is it's a good time to think about the thing you read recently and maybe just some stuff you learned from it. It's not a test. There's not right or wrong answers. It's just to make sure you're reading and paying attention, taking notes, maybe realizing things you didn't know you could do on the page, or that were done particularly well and that you might want to take note of for your own work. Must keep reading. So the rewrite is supposed to take 4 weeks. We start with the re-outline, which is what we're working on for today. The notes document is the next thing. That's going to be where you're getting all the notes that you've received, hopefully written or verbal notes that you were able to transcribe by yourself, and putting those all on one page or on one document. Then you're going to combine those 2 things together to make the revision guide, and you want that to be as detailed as possible before you start the actual rewrites. And then from there you move to the extra passes, which are those individual looks through for dialogue, character, arcs, action, whatever it is that still needs its own full pass. So what are the big problems that you've found in your script so far? And what are some ways that you think you might be able to start addressing these issues?
Well, with mine is, it's not very clear in some situations. Some scenes not very clear. Like the motives. What do the individual characters want? It's not very clear. So I have to build scenes to basically connect those wants and desires to characters.
Those are important.
To
Yeah,
characters
we should
yeah.
pretty much not ever be left in the dark as to what your main character wants or is trying to do, unless there's a really specific reason why you in fact want to keep that a mystery for some reason. You must make sure the motivation is clear, that the characters, what they're doing and what they're trying to do all makes sense and adds up and feels like something that we can understand someone wanting. That will be a big issue if you do not address that early on. So good that you are aware of it. Go ahead.
Yes, I think I'm very subtle with it because in the beginning, the mom is very distant. She doesn't really talk. Her daughter cries and she doesn't come to her. She's kind of like staring into blank space. Her daughter talks to her. She's like, "Ew, leave me alone. Like, I don't want to listen to you at all." All of those things going on, and she's distant. So I'm thinking that that's enough to say that she's not really connected with her daughter. But I can see how it doesn't. It's really passive. It's really not like hit you in the face. This is what's going on.
Yeah. Who's the protagonist of your story?
The mother.
The mother. Okay. So if the audience is not really clear on what she's trying to do and why, then it can be tough to engage with the whole story. So as long as we, as of the first few pages, probably, because I think you're working on a short, aren't you? I think that,
yes.
Like before page 2 or 3, we should probably know what your main character is trying to do and why.
Right, and I think that's the thing too, is that it is a short, and I'm trying to, put everything, compact everything, but I just did it at the end. Is a lot of dialogue and a lot of things happening at the beginning that didn't really say what anyone really wanted. I didn't really notice that there too.
Right, yeah. So setting goals for the characters is super important. That's like a big part of how we just understand stories, through the characters' progress towards their goals.
I was going to ask, have you considered rewriting this into a feature?
I feel like it could be, honestly.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it's you have some interesting stuff here that could just sustain a feature.
Yeah, from the logline, it sounded like I thought this was a feature at first. So this might be the kind of thing that has enough legs to write as a full length story.
That could give you. I was just going to say that could give you enough to really show, like, if Susan's goal is to like save her daughter from this shadow boy or whatever, or whatever the thing that's, like she's trying to do, um, it feels like maybe with a, bigger story that you have enough room to really set all these things up properly.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. More space usually gives you room to do, room to set up more complicated story elements. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, I kind of was thinking more so of making it look like Shadow Boy isn't the antagonist, like, you know, kind of make it look a little bit, that they would see the Shadow Boy as the good thing, like he's good, it's our friend, I think I need to make it to a feature because I need more room to really express that, because I kind of had to go into him just kicking, like, beating her ass basically. Like, that's kind of not where I wanted to go with it, but I was trying to like finish it into the short. So
yeah, a movie is already like a short story, basically. A short film is like a short story, so you just really don't have that much time to build mystery or to like raise a lot of questions. It's like a joke, basically. You have to kind of just be like, here's the setup, here's the character, here's the punchline, now it's over. So shorts are like their own whole... They have their own sort of specific rules and structure and things to them. But yeah, generally, if you don't have 100 pages to work with, you can't do too many setups and reveals and reversals and twists and things like that. You got to kind of just be pretty straightforward. So these are good things to know and good to be aware of as you move into the actual rewrite phase. You will, of course, want to make sure to finish the re-outline, and then you'll be able to turn that into a revision guide, which is what we'll mostly be talking about today. So also, you want to create this notes document, which is going to be a Google Doc, probably, with the title of your script and notes. And at the top, you can include your title, genre, logline, and comps for your script. This is all to just sort of keep you on track. If you already have this at the top of your the other main document that you'll be working from, which is the re-outline, then you don't need it on both. And what goes in the... Sorry, go ahead.
What are comps?
Comps are comparable films to yours. So this is going to be it's going to be one movie meets another movie. Things that try to... You can think of it like the sort of world or setting of the first one with the sort of the style or approach of the second one is a way that you can think of it. That's not the only way to approach comps, and there's not a hard science to them. But try not to do more than two. The more flavors you add, the more it becomes not a flavor. So try to just have two movies that are in the same sort of like world and style as yours. So what goes in the notes document? We want to look at similarities in the feedback that you've received and aggregate all of these notes into just one document. It doesn't have to be shrunken down to fit in one page, but you should be getting about a page of feedback per reader responding. That's the goal, at least. So either one page of written notes or enough verbal notes that you would be able to take down enough, at least one page of notes by yourself. So chronological order, biggest to smallest, can be a way to organize it. Usually what I do is I just do chronologically, so it'll be that's why we take a copy of your re-outline, so you have like the entire chain of events of your script with a bullet point for every scene. Then you have a document of all of the notes, and what you're going to do is you're going to be just copying and pasting over the notes into this re-outline, so that you know where they're going to go, and you're also choosing which notes that you want to take. And so that's going to be your revision guide. So on Google Docs, you can just go to File and make a copy, and then it will ask you what you want to retitle it. So you'll go to your re-outline, make a copy, and title it Revision Guide, and you will use that to create the framework for your new draft. So your, like I just mentioned, from your notes document, you look down that list and try to find things that you agree with or you think will improve the script in some way, or at least that two readers had in common together, because those are probably going to be the ones that you'll want to take. You're going to just highlight them and copy and paste them over onto the revision guide. And if you have major structure problems, you might also want to write out the story beats summary, like the major structural moments. You might want to label them out, so like midpoint, act breaks, things like that. You might want to just label those if you are having issues with structure that you think you'll need to address. So you'll be editing this revision guide before you get down to the script pages, so make sure that you want to include everything that you want to change on this pass to the next draft. So after you click and highlight and then copy over the notes, you will want to go through the entire revision guide and color code it. So green means keep it. It should be as is. It was fine before and it doesn't need to change. Yellow means it will need to be changed, and red means it will probably need to be cut. And then while you're working through and you're actually doing the revision, you will be updating it as you go. So highlighting things in green as you have placed them properly as they should be. So change something from yellow to green once you fix it or once it's incorporated. And if you get to a red section, I would just delete it and then keep going so that unless you want to keep track of like, oh, I know I deleted this for some reason and that's some info that you might need for later, you can usually just delete them as you work through the revision guide. So, should we look at some examples? I think Nacho had a good revision guide that he just posted. So let's open that one, and we can, if it's okay with Nacho, can we look?
Of course,
through this?
sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah. No, close your eyes.
Yeah. Sign your NDAs, everybody. All right. So this is the way that I mark it up. So green means, okay, this is perfect. So maybe like your scene 1 worked totally fine and it doesn't need to change. So in the revision guide, you'll highlight it green, and then you can just copy and paste that over directly from your last script, or from the last draft of it. You might have things that need to change or that need special attention, so you'll highlight those in yellow, like this. And this is stuff that is just not done or still requires attention. The goal is for the entire document to be green by the time that you're finished. So as you look through the guide, make sure that you're just highlighting in yellow all the problem areas or things that need to be changed or that are just not finished in whatever way. And then if you're definitely going to cut something, or you're almost certainly going to, just put it in red, and then, yeah, like I mentioned, when you get to it, just delete it. Okay, so that's how we make the revision guide. This is what it's going to kind of look like once, by the time it's fully prepped and ready for you to start going through. So you have stuff, this is stuff that you can copy, certain stuff you can just copy paste right over, but you shouldn't rely on that entirely. First of all, it's just a little annoying to copy and paste over from a PDF. So first things first, you should export your previous draft as an HTML or TXT file format. And then you can copy and paste scenes over as needed, although you still might need to adjust them just in your formatting software a little bit. But that should not be your default approach, and you should always leave room to be connecting scenes in a new way, and like you should default to writing something new rather than, even if it's like the same stuff happening in the scene, your default approach should be writing it fresh on its own rather than copying and pasting over way too much from your previous draft. But then again, sometimes it's just fine and you can just keep stuff from before. So you might also go ahead. We have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, so just so before I started working with Conor, like I was kind of used to just, I would outline document, follow it and everything, but writing for me is just like, okay, I'm open to screenwriting software and I'm typing, and it took just a little bit of time to get sort of adjusted to the fact that this is actually like really writing, like, you're the process of going through this little whatever paragraph and coloring stuff in different colors, and the yellow stuff, like I actually was typing it. I mean, it's really hard. I mean, it takes it's like you're really rewriting the whole script just in this like few pages. So I don't know, like that wasn't something I was familiar with doing before, so it took a little bit of like kind of like change in perspective to really get that you're actually writing a new version of your script just on these few pages.
Thanks, Nacho. Yeah, that's a good point. It might take a little readjustment if you've never done this before. I mean, just wait until you're working with producers or managers and they're making you do huge changes and huge rewrites, like several drafts in. I remember one of the first scripts I went really wide with. My manager had me add in a whole new major character on the 4th draft. And it was really tough to do. And unless you have a process like this, I can't really imagine how you'd even begin to approach something like that. So even if these exact steps don't work for you, I would hope that it would be enough that you'd be able to modify this and find your own similar process, because otherwise, imagine doing 7 drafts of a 100-page long document with tons of new stuff every time, cutting whole characters, cutting whole plot lines. Like, you would go insane if you didn't have some kind of method of organization like this. And also, just producers and people you're working with are going to be relying on you to be able to do stuff like this and to be really organized and keep them all on the same page. Even if they have read 5 different drafts of the script over 5 years by 5 different writers, you need to be the one that is able to step in and say, here is an organized plan for how you will proceed with your draft. I know what to do. I am at the wheel, and you are in the competent hands of somebody who is now steering the ship. So you need to be able to say all those things. And unless you have some kind of really bulletproof method of staying on track and staying organized, you'll be in trouble. And I'm not sure how you would do rewrites professionally. So yeah, some good things to think about. And this little thing you've written out here, which is just how to write a scene. You might, if you're struggling to make certain scenes work, you might want to write something like that, like add some little templates like this, frame what the scene is about, build intrigue, ask the question, use tactics, find the fun, surprise us, get to the point. So you can use that to apply to sequences or just scenes themselves. If you're having trouble making something work, refer to our previous classes on scene work if you need some more pointers on that. So yeah, this is what the revision guide should look like, and this is how it should be marked up. Do we have questions on making the revision guide? What goes in it? How to make it?
This is just like a Word document, right? This is just a normal a Word document.
Yeah, that's the majority of what we're working on. Like, the only things that we're using to write are usually Google Docs, and then, for me, Writer Duet. Those are the only programs I'm ever using.
You can get it on your computer? 'Cause I only have it on my phone.
Which one? Google Docs or
Writer Duet?
Writer Duet? Yeah, oh yeah, you can. There's a desktop version you can get.
Yeah, you just open it up in the browser, actually, on your desktop.
You can open it in the browser. It's a little less stable than the downloaded desktop version. I have found it takes a little longer to load and switch documents and stuff, so that's what I would recommend. And I think there's a version called Writer Solo as well, isn't there, Nacha? Is Writer Solo just the name of the desktop version?
Yeah, it's for some reason it's a slightly more simplified version of Writer Duet, and I don't know why they made it, but it is similar to Writer Duet, and it's free. But the free version of Writer Duet is also free. So
okay, well, there you go. So yeah, that's what I use for everything. All of the pre-writing, all of the outlining, it's all just on regular Google Docs with no templates or you don't need to download or add anything. Other questions about the revision guide? Okay, so hopefully, I suppose everyone knows what to do now. So any questions about just what to do next or how to move forward with the rewrite at all? Like notes, choosing which notes you're going to use, how do you put them into the revision guide? Any questions at all like that, or does everyone fully understand what the next steps will be?
I'm trying to take myself out of illusions, because that's what I was just working on to come back to my friend Dante. But yeah, I think I know I'm gonna have to change something, and now I'm looking at it as a feature. So I want to, put in the scenes where she used to play with Dante in the house. Like their life before they moved. I'm thinking about that.
Okay, so you mean you just want to build out the main character's life a little more in your rewrite? And is this
yeah.
Are you asking how to do that, or is this just like what you're planning on doing next?
Yeah, I'm asking. I mean, you have any pointers? Yeah, I definitely.
Well, my main pointer for you will be you don't want to rely too much on flashbacks unless flashbacks are going to be a really essential part of how you tell the story. So there are some stories that have flashbacks really woven in throughout the entire thing. Shows and movies like Lost or Sharp Objects or Gone Girl or things like this that are going to have some sort of structure for flashbacks that are going to permeate the entire story. You don't want to just try not to lean too heavily on flashbacks because it's easy to kind of lose the audience if it feels like the flashback isn't the answer to some kind of question we were wondering, if it just feels like a digression, or if it feels like nothing in particular triggered it. It's just for the purpose of the audience to know something. They can get really tiresome really quickly. So I'll just say use as few flashbacks as you think you can get away with.
Okay, so what if I'm starting it off like in the past? Like the movie starts with her as a little girl. Lizzie as a little girl, she's at the house playing, with her imaginary friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to the second act. I want the still the adult version to go down. That they move and she comes back to the house and she's trying to, mend her relationship with her daughter. Susan's trying to mend her relationship with her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And Dante's like upset. They have their little clash. Was that because that's a lot. I feel like that's a lot that's gonna go on in the first act, like just the past event.
Right. So it's not. So yeah, if you're starting in the past and you want to set up almost like a prologue, then you probably want to handle that in the first 10 minutes or less. The longer that we spend in that, the more we will sort of unless your story is split between two different timelines, then it can be tricky to manage something like that. So I will say, try to wrap it up within 10 pages. Try to do everything that you're talking about before it gets too late in the script. And you're gonna, I guess, just figure out what your catalyst is. Is your catalyst her coming back home, or is the catalyst her re-encountering the imaginary friend yet again? Or I think you need to find the event that is going to be the thing that sets the story into motion. To me, it sounds like her returning home.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, then that's like going to be between pages 10 and 15. So you know that you need to front load everything before there. So within your first 10 minutes, think of also just what genre is your movie. If is it horror? Is it mystery? Is it like, so think of like the promises that those different genres are making and the ways that those stories are supposed to open. So what genre is your movie, would you say?
Well, I said supernatural thriller.
Okay. In that case, we probably want to start with something thrilling. So you certainly want to open with a scary scene. So that might affect.
I'm moving towards horror now.
Oh yeah, if it's horror, then you definitely want to start with a scary scene, unless it's going to be a horror drama, in which case you might not. If you don't start with a scary scene, then it makes the first scary scene much more impactful when it happens. So that can be a balance that you might want to strike, but for the most part, you want to start with a scene that is reflecting the emotional experience that you're promising. So yeah, think of how can I start the movie with a bang and really grip people and grab their attention. That should be like first and foremost in your thoughts at the moment. Cool. I forgot what question I was even answering, but hopefully I answered it.
Yeah,
yes,
and
you did. Thank you.
Sure.
I was just going to mention, it sounds like you're kind of considering some big changes to the story. Like you said, maybe you might have the Shadow Boy not be the antagonist, in which case you may need to figure out, well, what is the antagonistic, I guess, force, or,
It would be her. It would be Susan, the mom.
Oh, so maybe it would be like Leslie might be the protagonist.
Yeah.
So you may want to like kind of work out a new log line, maybe, I guess, if you're going back to that, and maybe sort of like consider the script that you wrote as kind of like a like a pre-writing document or something that's kind of helping you figure out the story. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's some really cool elements in this that I think could be a feature, but it's maybe a lot of work to you're almost starting from scratch. It sounds like.
Right. I mean, to reimagine just
Yes.
a 15-page short as a feature, you might in some ways have to sort of start from scratch and cut things from whole cloth, as opposed to just it's going to be difficult to stretch that story to fill out a feature, so you're going to have to come up with a bunch more just events. So if you're trying to do a rewrite of the short first, then obviously you don't have to worry about any of this stuff yet. Just write the best version of the short that you can, and try to get it 10 pages or less, because shorts, you will have diminishing rewards from shorts that are longer than 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I just can't see
go
it
ahead.
as a short. No, I'm saying I just can't see it as a short anymore.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
So maybe just in the feature bootcamp, maybe you'll get some good ideas for how you can start to rethink it as a full feature. So when we're ready to actually start the rewrite, you will need to open a new blank, completely empty, just screenplay file, and open your old script in a separate window or export to just TXT or HTML. And then you're going to go through and just starting with page 1, as needed, you can copy and paste individual lines or scenes over from the previous document. And also just be constantly writing new stuff and linking scenes together and clarifying the emotional point of scenes and all these things. And make sure to update your revision guide color coding to reflect your progress as you go. By the end of the draft, there should be no more red or yellow sections. That's how you know that you're done. Speaking of this question, how do we know that you're done? I guess we'll address that in the next slide. So, final passes. If you finish your rewrite before next week, what are some things that you can do? So you can start on this next phase. You can get ahead a little bit and do these individual passes for specific elements that require their own look through. So that might be just the dialogue. It might be just one character's dialogue. It might be the action scenes throughout. It might be some specific character and their journey or their change or something like their motivation. It's just unclear and not coming through on the page. So you might just need to do a whole pass just for that. You might need to do a whole pass just for tone. So things might be coming across as sillier than you intend, or more unsettling than you intend, or anything. Anytime you're just not delivering the emotional experience that you wanted to, or that you planned to, or attempted to convey. Pros, this principle called CBV stands for clarity, brevity, voice, and that is the order that you should be, like, in descending order of importance. That is how you should be thinking of every line in the script, using that little acronym. So first, clarity, that's every line. We know exactly what's happening, and there is no ambiguity over what is occurring. So use as many words as you need to get clarity. Then next is brevity, so remove as many words as you can. Then last is voice, so you can make the lines more evocative, interesting, literary, full of your own kind of character and personality, and whatever voice you're building and establishing for this script. So that's the last priority. Remember, clarity and brevity always come first. If you just nail those two, you'll be pretty much fine. And then you, of course, want to keep reading pro scripts to get better ideas how to do any of these things, how to actually write better dialogue, how to, just use the screenplay format for its best possible potential, and just what does, like, a well-written script look and feel like. You will only get a good sense of by reading lots and lots and lots of scripts. Let me check if my recording's still going. Okay, it seems to be going for now, so no encoding error yet. We will see. Let's look at this question. How do we know when it's done? So there's no one answer to this. You are just pretty much done when you think you've addressed every note. You can send it out again to get another read and just repeat this until the notes you feel are not going to improve it anymore, or you've improved it as much as you can, or you've reached the point where you're not agreeing with any of the notes because you feel like people are just, I don't know, maybe just fixating on stuff that you've already decided should be as it is. So that's normally going to take at least 3 to 5 drafts before you are, quote, done with a script. It's difficult to say. It's satisfying to finish a script because most of the time they don't go anywhere. They do not get made in 99.9% of cases. It's tough to even get people to read them. So you have to find your own little ways of motivating yourself to be finished and to just add these benchmarks and goalposts of your own. Maybe, I don't know, when you finish, buy yourself a cake or something like that. I like to have a reading with friends and family, so that is sort of the grand finale where you get a little audience for it of some kind. You get everyone together. You can get more feedback on it if you want, or you can just consider that the sort of send off, and you move on to the next script. One of the great skills involved in being a screenwriter is the ability to move on and to let go of things, because you can't just be stuck on one script forever and ever. We're only trying to create about an hour and a half of entertainment, and it shouldn't take you years to make an hour and a half of entertainment. So try to aim for three or four drafts. If you're just starting out and you think everything's turning out terrible and you're not happy with any of it, you don't have to do any additional drafts. You can just move on and do something else. You don't have to get stuck revising something. Not everything has to be perfect, and not everything's going to necessarily ever get to the point where it's any good. And that's fine. That's why we emphasize choosing ideas that are a little more out there, or some crazy thing you've always wanted to see and something you're not as attached to and have been working on for years, because you just need to start writing things, executing them to the best of your ability, and then finishing them and moving on. That is how you be a screenwriter, or a writer of any kind. Aaron Sorkin has said before that he still feels the need to go back and revise The Social Network. That movie won an Oscar, so if that makes perfect sense to you, then you are probably in the right place. Even pros have difficulty determining when a project is done permanently. Okay, so hopefully by now you know everything you need to do to proceed. You've gotten some of the notes that you need to identify where the key issues are with your rewrite project, and now we'll just open the floor to any screenwriting topics that you feel you need extra help with. We also have lab today from 4 to 6 if you have more questions like that of any kind that you want to bring, or pages to look at then. All right, so what topics do we need extra help with or have questions about?
You kind of brought up.
Question is,
Go ahead.
yeah, one question is, well, do you have any scripts, firstly, because I know we have to read scripts, that are voiceovers are going on and scenes are, things are different clips of different videos or different sightings are going on while they're talking?
Different clips or different things are going on while they're talking? What do you mean exactly? So,
like say like, you know how you have a nature show and they're talking about what's going on.
Right.
How do you write that?
How do you write voiceover? Is that the question?
Right.
Right.
How do you write voiceover? Yeah.
Okay. So, I am a huge fan of voiceover. First of all, I would say read scripts with voiceover, because that is going to be the best way to learn. I can give you some key principles for using it and for finding success with it, because some of my best received scripts have been soaked in voiceover, and I've written a ton of it before. So, basic principles for voiceover. 1, you don't want to have the character say something that we would otherwise be able to see. So if there's some story element that is being demonstrated right in front of us, think, why do we need the character to comment on this? So there should be just a device in place, or there should be some element to the character or some part of the story that can only be expressed via this voiceover. Maybe it's a character that is very internal and doesn't express themselves out loud very well, or has a very complicated thought process, or we need to sort of be able to follow their thought process in order to understand the story. For instance, if it's about, like, why do you think all those noir detective movies have voiceovers? The answer is because it's about characters that are usually more laconic and quiet, but they are working with a lot of complicated information, making connections, putting clues together, and it's helpful for the character to be able to tell those things to the audience, so that we don't need to rely on watching the character endlessly connect string after string to post-it note after post-it note. So you can see, in that case, what is the effect of the voiceover? It allows us to quickly summarize and understand the clues and connections between disparate elements of a case, and the mind of a very competent detective is interesting to have laid bare for us. So there's some reasons why that story might have a voiceover. So you have to ask yourself, why does my story have this voiceover in the first place? What am I accessing that I would not otherwise be able to see? I have one of my Nickel semifinalist script is called The Tube, and this is about a lonely housekeeper who gets a TV that starts talking to her, basically, and encouraging her to do dark things to get what she wants. That character, I wanted to so clearly delineate why we have voiceover in her head, and to show that that's sort of her true self. Her voiceover has an American accent, whereas while she's doing stuff in the real world, she's affecting a fake English accent. So we see the voiceover is literally her real, true voice, and sort of revealing what her true thoughts are behind this mask and this facade. So you have to have something in place that like requires a voiceover. Just having one for no reason won't make a script better. And unless your character's voice is particularly engaging, illuminating, or interesting, then it's going to feel superfluous and like you should just not have it. So, give your character an interesting perspective or way of seeing the world, or that's what perspective is. An interesting perspective or tactic that they use or line of thought that they use to solve their problems. Something that they are hiding about themselves that we would only be able to get through this voiceover. Think, is it this character looking back from a position in the future, so them sort of reminiscing on the past, in which case that voiceover would be able to do certain narrative elements such as telling us things that haven't happened yet, or like, little did I know, but blankety blank blank. You can use those for a specific effect, but only if you know exactly the point that your character is looking back on their life from and speaking from. So that's just like a bunch, I just like threw 40 things at you of things to just be aware of and be thinking of when it comes to voiceover. Interesting perspective. Don't tell us things that we would otherwise be able to see, and use it to lay bare the interesting interiority of characters. Did that answer the question, or was the question just like, how do I format a voiceover line?
Yeah, that's what basically the format. How do I format?
Oh, you wanted just the format. You put VO next to the line. In parentheses, V.O.
No, because I have like this big, I have like this antagonist. This is an Illusions. An antagonist, okay. He has a voiceover, a pretty long, it's not really that long of a monologue, but he basically is talking about, look at the people, look at them, they're driving their cars, they're, destroying the planet and all this other stuff, and he's like really talking about how he feels. And during all of this, you can see examples of what he's talking about, like different clips of busy city streets, bumper-to-bumper traffic, the ocean litter, stuff like that. All the behaviors that he's describing, like, TV, he's like, everyone watches the shows, the movies, and social media while smoking and spreading disheartening messages. You like seeing, different memes and stuff of like, really horrible things people post sometimes, and kids, like teenagers or whatever, smoking and stuff like that. And he's like basically explaining his mindset and says like, what he's going to change it, and he's like, with torture, and then you see like different scenes of how the army used to interrogate people with using torture. You see scenes of that, and there's different scenes of you see the torture or whatever, and then he talks about, I'm going to change the world like this. You see the torture, and you see like a group of, young adults in the army, men and women, standing in a line at attention. He's like, I'm going to create an army. And then he goes to, the camera drifts off into his apartment, and you see from his window, you see the protagonist, then 17, walking down the street, and he's like the mark.
Okay.
You can see that from there. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this sounds like a fine way to use voiceover. I mean, to give your villain voiceover, and it does give them some like narrative control over the story, which can be interesting to do. So yeah, that sounds like a fine way to do it. Did you have a question about how to do it in that case, or just in general?
Yeah, because I'm actually I was gonna just put it as him speaking, antagonist voiceover, and just have the whole line of it, but I actually split it up into different pieces. I would have the action line of what you're seeing on the screen, and I'll have him say parts of, his monologue, and then I have action lines of what they're seeing on the screen, then another part of the monologue.
Yes, that is how you should be doing it. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, perfect.
If you give us too long of a line, then the reader is going to start to wonder what we're supposed to be looking at while we're reading it. So you're trying to replicate the experience of watching the movie by writing it in that way. So yeah, you have to break up those big monologues with stuff like, we have to always know what we're seeing in a movie script. So you got to break them up with imagery, then more from the voiceover, then imagery, then more from the voiceover. So yeah, sounds like you did it the right way.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. Other questions or topics that you want extra help or guidance with for your rewrite project, or just in general?
Yeah, I was gonna mention. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Um, you talked about getting readings done, and like that is something I kind of struggle with. Is just I get some things written and then trying to get people to read it. Like everybody, like I've gotten a bunch of friends too, and they all say they'll read it, and like maybe out of 30 people, maybe one or two respond. So, what other ways are there to get readings to happen?
Well, you can. So, if you just give a script to a bunch of people, then the chances, yeah, you'll get like, if even half of them finish it, it's kind of a miracle. So that's why I actually recommend doing them in person. If you obviously for COVID safety reasons, if you don't want to, then it's understandable. But if you can get everyone in the same place, get a pizza or something, then get everyone to read roles in it. Then that is a better way to get people to read it than just giving it to them and saying, hey, get back to me when you can. If they actually have a place to go and a specific time, it's like going to a movie, so like doing that should be able to get you more results. Or at least, even if you can't do it in person, do it on Discord or on Zoom or something like that, where you have everyone on the same page, literally, like reading the script together. That will usually get more people than if you just give them a document to check out.
Yeah, and I actually did do that once, and it worked out great. Outside of friends and family, are there other places? I mean, and I know you kind of do it on the Discord server too, but it's usually just a few pages, not a whole script, it seems.
Go ahead, Nacho.
Complete. Yeah, I was just going to say we're doing complete scripts, table reads of like complete features, TV pilots, etc. every 2 weeks, starting May 8th. And so there's a form that you submit it, and so this is included in your unlimited membership. And for those who are not members, they just need to like give some feedback on the server, like to other people enough, and then they have enough like coins they can do like one of complete table read and everything. So it's just something new we're starting. So it's going to be like if we get bombarded with a whole lot of scripts, it may take a while to get everyone's schedule, but it is going to be available for all unlimited members.
There you go. All right, so starting in about a week, sounds like we will have a good opportunity for you to do it right here on the server.
Can you think of any other ways? Like, are there like, I don't know, colleges or I don't know, little play group, like theaters? Do you ever like try to take your readings to something like that, or not really?
I have not. If it was a play, I might think it would be a little more feasible, and I think you have plays, so that might work for you. For movies and TV shows, typically, that you're going to have trouble finding a group that specializes in those unless they themselves are screenwriters. So just try building a community of screenwriters that you can meet them through this very server. You can like go on there's a lot of other social media and Discord servers for screenwriters. There's Facebook groups, there's Reddit, there's Script Hive, there's the screenwriting subreddit has its own Discord as well. So yeah, there's lots of places online where people talk about screenwriting, and that would be a good place to just meet people who are writing something similar to you. Try to form a consistent group with them that you get along with and trust and like their opinions and their work and stuff. And you have to kind of build it yourself. I haven't really heard of people going to colleges and just being like, who wants to read this thing? It theoretically could happen, but you're probably better off forming a community of screenwriters, I would think. Or playwrights.
Did you say there was another Discord server for? I missed that.
Oh, yeah, for the screenwriting subreddits, there's one called Script Hive, which we have done events with before, which is a really great community with about 10 times as many members as us. Yeah, there's if you just search screenwriting in the like Discord directories or Facebook groups, I'm sure you'll find. I mean, they're going to vary in quality, but you'll at least find people who are interested in the same stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Other questions? let's look at what to do for next time. Complete your notes document. So if you have not given or received notes that you are, if you've not given notes that you are on the hook for, you must do that. If you've not received any, then message the person. Then if they don't respond, message me or Nacho. Complete the revision guide, which is going to be, remember, a copy. If you've not finished the re-outline, first finish that, obviously. And then if you make a copy of that, you will then start to move your notes onto the revision guide to make that document. And then try to finish the first 10 to 30 pages of your rewrite by May 7th, which is next class meeting. So try to read at least one script from the blacklist, or one recent TV pilot, ideally sort of in the same genre as your project, but it doesn't really have to be. But keep reading pro scripts, at least one every single week. Questions about the homework or what to do for next time?
Yeah, sorry, I missed last week's class and I came in this one a little late. Can you just briefly tell me the difference between the notes document and the revision document? Like,
yeah, so in today's class we were talking about the notes document is all of the feedback that you've gotten that you've consolidated into one place. So it should be just like a Google Doc with all the notes that you've gotten either from other students or just other sources. You want them all in the same spot. Then you're going to decide which ones you're going to use and which ones you're not going to. So you can look for commonalities between the different notes and maybe highlight the ones that you think are going to be used and useful. And then the revision guide is going to be a copy of your re-outline that you're then clicking and dragging these notes onto that document so that you know where each of these changes are supposed to be. We looked at were you there when we brought up the...
See that, and so these could be in the same document, right? Or is there a reason they would be two different documents, or?
They could be the same if you really want to. I usually keep them separate just to be more organized, but if it works fine for you, then sure, you can just tack it onto the end.
Okay, because the notes I imagine are just a lot more kind of free-form thoughts, random thoughts, right? Just from anybody and everyone, including yourself.
These should be primarily notes from other people. I mean, if you have your own thoughts that you want to have a little section for in the notes document, you can. But you're trying to get feedback from at least two different sources that are not you, so that you can see where those commonalities are. If you have like a list of changes you want to make as well, then you see something that matches up with all three of them, then that's even better. That means that's something that you definitely know what to do with. But yeah, so try to you want to get as many sources of feedback as possible, just to see where things are lining up, where people are agreeing.
Okay, and then you kind of mentioned like starting a brand new document for the revision, which seems to me like a lot of extra work other than kind of moving things around. Is there a reason you suggest a brand new?
Yeah,
document?
So that is going to be, it's if you just open a previous document and start moving stuff around and fiddling with stuff, it is much more difficult to track what you have changed and what you haven't, and it is I have found more psychologically difficult to move things around or change things as they are. So this is why I find it just absolutely easiest to start with a blank new document, and you can copy and paste over scenes from the previous draft as needed. Sometimes a scene that you already wrote just might work okay. But this gives you the sort of space and ability to make new connections between scenes, or to add stuff in, or to take stuff out that no longer feels like it fits. And I find it really helpful, and everyone I've recommended it to usually ends up liking it as well. If you really hate the idea and don't want to, then you have to make your own sort of method and way of approaching this. But that is what I recommend doing.
Thanks.
Sure. And this is, I have up on the screen right now just an example of what the revision guide will look like once it's marked up. This is Nacho's. So green means you're going to keep it as is, red means you're going to take it out, and yellow means you're going to change it. So if you're bringing in notes, they're almost always going to be highlighted in yellow because it's something that needs to be added or changed. You would just drag it right next to the section where it goes in the script. It's already, the point of doing the re-outline is to have this really clear chronological view of the entire story that you will then be able to outline your rewrite before you begin. Okay, any other questions? So we have a referral program. Refer a friend, they will get discounted membership, and you will get a free month. So remember about that. We have lab later today from 4 to 6. There is no playwriting today because that course has ended. So come by at 4 if you have just more questions or problems or up to 5 pages of something you would like me to look at. This is included with unlimited memberships. And send Nacho your size and address, and he can send you a free t-shirt. I've got 2 of them, so you should totally do this if you have not. Okay, so we're pretty early, but it's a... Go
I
ahead.
have a question.
Sure.
So you're saying that we're not doing the 5-page reading today?
5-page
That's
reading?
on Sundays. That's every
that's
Sunday.
tomorrow.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, tomorrow at 4, I think. All right. Any other questions before we call it for today? Let me bring up the homework and leave it on there. So finish the re-outline, write up the notes document, write up the revision guide, start on the rewrite if you have time, and keep reading proscripts. Okay, that's going to wrap up class for today. Yep, lab at 4. Come by if you have more questions or up to 5 pages of something you'd like me to look at. Let's call it here. Thanks for coming by, folks. And if you've not given notes, please do so to your group members that you said you would give notes to.
I don't know if I'm in a group.
Yeah, so Trin, I guess, so we assigned the groups last week, but if you'd like to participate and give feedback to the folks who posted their scripts, and usually we try to do that during the first week. So I don't know if it's convenient, then you may be able to get feedback from the others, because we had you could kind of replace David because he dropped out.
You know which group he was in?
It just might. So we just have one group. So it's Carmen, Moon Spirit, and you. So if you read Carmen's script and Moon Spirit's, and they can each read yours. It's just that ideally you would want to have feedback earlier, so that you could start on the notes document, the revision guide. So you just may be a little bit longer before you get your feedback back. If that's okay, then you can post your
Fine.
script.
I was just going to use the script I had already gotten some feedback on. So.
Oh, perfect.
From others, so that would work.
Perfect.
So, okay. Or you could just come back in 2 weeks when a new one of these courses is starting, and then you would be able to get the 2 reads and give 2 reads a little easier. But up to you. You can also just join this group a little late if you want.
When is the next group, did you say?
This is a 4-week course, and we're on week 2 right now. So
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll restart right after.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Trin. And thanks, everyone
All
else.
right. Have a good one.
Have a great weekend, everyone.